What is going on, Cigar Club family? Welcome to another episode here on the Cigar Club podcast. Today we are talking about the brand new Cigar Club Customs Volume 5 for 2021, Durham. And joining me, as always,
it is
David Pugh.
Hot and sunny day here in Alabama.
We had beautiful weather here. Hey, what is the podcast if you don't start off talking about the weather? That's what I want to know. But we actually had a beautiful day in Cincy. I just have been inside working all day, so I'm going to let you do the smoking. I do have some drinking to do because I got a really cool bottle in about 30 minutes ago. And I look forward to the Customs Breakdown podcasts, shows, anything we do. I look forward to these quite a bit because that's what Customs is all about, is these really awesome stories of how these come to be. And today's is really no exception. So, Pugh, you've already lit up. Why don't you walk everybody through blend components, size, and maybe some initial thoughts, and then we can dive into the dirty, dirty details
You're
of this
catching
cigar.
me here. I don't have these pulled up.
Oh, it's okay.
You're catching me off guard here, Dave. I wasn't ready for that one.
Hold on. I'll walk everybody through the quick details, and then
Perfect.
you can tell us about initial thoughts.
Perfect.
5 1/4 by 50 Bellicoso. Now, I do want to note here, I had a heavy emphasis on Bellicoso and not Torpedo because I'm not a big Torpedo fan. Now, a lot of you may ask, like, what the heck is the difference between a Bellicoso and a Torpedo? It's really the Bellicoso is a little shorter and a little more rounded at the top.
Softer.
And I just feel like you have to cut less of it down to start smoking. And I just kind of like that rounded look. It gives me a little bit of a 109 vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not, you don't have to make things in specific molds just to be able to do this. Your roller can actually make this tip. So this cigar is made at the La Corona Cigar Factory in Esteli, Nicaragua. You guys who all know Sereno Cigars, which if you've been following us for any point in time, you know a lot about Sereno Cigars. This is where the majority of their production is made by a master blender named Omar Gonzalez, who came to Nicaragua, like many, by way of Cuba. And Omar has incredible tobacco from farms that he owns and where he grows, and he does everything kind of seed to cigar, what we would call in the industry is vertically integrated.
Vertically integrated.
Where he produces cigars, but he also grows tobacco, ferments it, does the box, everything. The guy's a legend. And we got the cigar here, which the story is amazing. But before we dive into that, just the quick basics. We've got a Habano 2000 Oscuro Nicaraguan wrapper. We have got a mix of, wow, do I really not even know this either? I always forget the binder on this one. Hold on,
It's funny,
everybody.
too,
Ramsey, I need
a
big stop here.
I just looked at it like 5 minutes ago.
Take it back then, Pugh.
No, I don't remember it. I don't remember it. I looked at it 5 minutes ago.
Okay,
As
here's what I want to
set
get
up.
at.
Write it out.
It's a hearty Nicaraguan blend, but the really cool piece in here is one of these kind of famous tobacco varietals that a lot of people know called Medio Tiempo. And all Medio Tiempo is the very, 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 very top of the tobacco plant. It's that leaf or that chunk of leaves that they pull off and use in here. And it can be very overpowering in a cigar if it's not used correctly. So right below Medio Tiempo, you then have Ligero, which Ligero is normally your strongest, most oily, full-bodied tobacco most of the time. So when it's not the most, you know that there's some serious stuff in here, aka Medio Tiempo, and that comes from a Criollo 98 seed grown in Jalapa, Nicaragua. So it's got a little more sweetness. Granted, it does have a good bit of strength. This cigar is one that I wanted to do because I know that in 5 years, this cigar is going to be something special, just as it is now 5 months after it's been rolled. This cigar is blended to be aged. You can obviously enjoy it now, but of all the customs we'll release this year, this is the one you should at least take one of them and put it away and not pick it up for a long, long time. So anyway,
what you're saying is I need to
Durham.
hide it in the back of the humidor that you don't find until you're rearranging cigars in like 5, 6, 7 years from now.
You need to take at least one, maybe two of them, and just do that with it, and just totally forget about it. It doesn't exist. Come back to it in a couple years, And I think you're going to enjoy it. And the reason being is the first time I smoked this blend, it was 8 years old.
What?
So I know
Wow.
that it's good old.
Yeah, that's awesome because normally you don't have that benefit of trying something or at least having similar to it that's got aged on it. So sometimes you're just a shot in the dark.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now I want to go back to the Medio Tempo. If I recall correctly, or at least I've read somewhere that sometimes that is hand-picked with tweezers. Now I don't know the validity of that, but I have certainly seen somewhere that commented or discussed that Medio Tempo was harvested with tweezers. I don't know if it's true or not, but I like to think it is because that makes it even more special.
That I don't know, but I don't want to say no because the leaves are so small that I could see maybe there being a reason why they pull them off with tweezers to preserve the majority of the leaf, so like a large finger or something can't like rip it in half.
It adds to the allure or the specialness.
We'll just pretend that that's right.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Even if it's not. Also, I can update myself on how horrific I was remembering the blend components on this, but the wrapper is an Ecuadorian Habano 2000 Oscuro. Binder is Criollo 98 Esteli, and then the filler is a mix of Criollo 98 Jalapa, Corojo 99 Esteli, and then, like we said, the Criollo 98 Medio Tiempo. This cigar already, when I first smoked it, when it landed stateside about a month ago, was a totally different cigar. And I love that about this one. It changes often. And when we blended it, I loved it. And then we got it in, and I'm like, this is definitely the same cigar. It just, I'm getting all these new things. I was getting all this coffee, all this leather, all this spice. Then I smoked it the other day, and I got the strength, but it was just sweet. It was like a totally different kind of profile. So let's get into it. You've lit it up.
I am.
What are your initial thoughts? Tell me about, I know you're a big fan of Sereno cigars, so I kind of want to hear from you, from your side, when this cigar was announced, when we were talking about it internally, your kind of excitement level and what you expected from this blend.
Yeah, I think this was probably my most sought after excitement for customs, just because, like you said, I'm a huge Sereno fanboy. And so I just knew the story, everything around it, I was really excited for. Starting off right away, beautiful ash. And I love a good solid white ash. I hate when it gets all charred and dark. So that to me is already an appealing. The cold draw, I initially got some kind of darker fruit notes, a little sweetness, which is probably what I would attest to the Jalapa. I tend to get more sweet notes from Jalapa tobacco. And then there was, you talked about it, and as soon as you mentioned it, I went back and did it again, and I got it. You were talking about this cookie dough. And I didn't get it from the cold draw, but when I was just smelling the foot of the cigar, I really picked that up. And it's just this kind of like undertone sweetness on the initial smelling of the foot, and the cold draw combined was a lot sweeter than I anticipated, but not like glaringly, cloyingly sweet. To start off right away, I do get some of that sweetness. But it's predominantly kind of earthier undertones with maybe some leather to it. Not a lot of spice on the front, which is I enjoy. I don't necessarily like when a cigar gives you a pepper bomb right in the front. They just pack it full of Ligero to wake you up. So this is starting off really good, and I'm really excited to see not only how it ages in the future, but really the transitions and where this heads going into the first third.
When you have this much mix of primings, Medio Tiempo, Ligero, there's Viso, there's Seco in here. You have all four possible in the cigar. You're going to get that flavor transition roller coaster, right? It's just, and it's going to be a little different every time. But the one big thing here was also when we were talking about making this cigar was making sure that when they were layering it, that was done with a lot of intention and that the rollers knew how they were laying it so that it wasn't stacking bottom of a Ligero or the bottom of the Medio Tiempo and then all the top of it. So then you get all the spice there and then it goes back to bottom, but that it was evenly placed and stacked on top of each other to give it balance throughout the cigar, not just jarring transitions that every third tastes like a new cigar, which I guess can be cool, but it's not, that won't turn into a cigar that you want to come back to and enjoy and you can expect the same flavors from. So that was a big point of emphasis as well on making the cigar in the first place. Now, Pugh, you are the pairing prince and the palate prince. So we bring you in for these kind of things too,
Yeah.
to start to talk to us about what we're going to be drinking with it. And this cigar, and we're going to get into the story of it and everything, but this is a strong cigar. It's full-bodied. It's full of flavor. It can handle some hard, high-proofed liquors.
Yeah.
I want to know where your head goes initially with this, and then I'm going to showcase a new bottle I just got about an hour ago.
Excited for that new bottle. So on this one, first time I've smoking it, so I really had no expectations going into it. I did not know any of the flavor profile, the tasting notes to it.
Cool.
I knew it was on the fuller side, so I knew I could go. I had my full spectrum of ranges. So what I did was, since haven't smoked it before, I smelled the foot and I did a cold draw to kind of determine potentially where I thought this cigar could go, and then I'm basing my pairing around that. And this is generally what I do anytime I'm really wanted to focus on a cigar or figure out what might pair well with it. I'll, if I don't want to spoil the cigar and look up tasting notes, I'll smell it, smell the foot of the cigar, and then do a cold draw and kind of base my ideas off that. So I have 3 different whiskeys today, and I'm starting off with a bourbon.
Okay.
A little higher proof, but not insanely high, and I chose one of my favorites, McKenna 10 Bottled and Bond single barrel. This one in particular was barreled in 2008 and pulled in 2018. So
that's a great call.
Beautiful.
That'll be really interesting.
To me, it's the epitome. I've talked about it before. It's the epitome of what bourbon should be. If I had someone that never, one of those YouTube shows where it's so-and-so tries bourbon for the first time, if I had this bottle, this is the bottle I would put in front of everyone every single time. I think it hits all those classic bourbon notes. Caramel, got a little bit of the aged oak on it, a little bit of vanilla to it. And then it's got that, that 10-year, that proof at 100 proof, which is, to me, one of my favorite, proofs of a bourbon. So I think this one could go really well. I'm curious to see how much actual, whether the cigar overpowers the bourbon or if it kind of plays nicely. That would be, it may not be strong enough to go with such a full-bodied cigar. So we'll see. And this is kind of what I do. It's just trial and error. Start with a basis of what you think it may go with, and give it a shot. And if it doesn't go well, you either put it aside and try something else, or, just finish the cigar as is and then go back to the bourbon or the pairing afterwards.
Right. And you are enduring the elements for this. You have a full powered cigar and a heavy lineup of bourbon, and you're sitting in like 90-degree Alabama weather.
It's going to be a fun one, but hey, you know what? We do it.
Kudos to you, Pugh. Thanks for taking one for the team. So I got a package today. Well, no, somebody dropped this off. Courtesy of Mr. Griff Howie. I have in my hands
Ooh.
Jack Daniel's barrel proof single barrel store pick.
That's one he has fallen in love with in
Look, it's
recent
got a
weeks.
freaking necklace.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. I tried one of those. I was visiting Jack Daniel's in 2019, March of 2019, and I got to taste their barrel pick, or their barrel proof, I think they call it, or barrel strength, for the first time, and it's completely unlike any other Jack Daniel product that I've had. I mean, I really started drinking Jack Daniels in college as a mixer and kind of wore myself out on Jack Daniels, but it was refreshing, a refreshing take on what the Jack Daniels line is. So I'm really curious how that store pick is. I know Griff loves that one.
Well, everyone gets to be part of the bottle opening.
What a sound.
There she is.
I like that I leaned into the microphone to hear that despite having headphones on.
Despite having headphones on.
One sip of the Bottled and Bond 100 proof, I'm already going downhill.
We've already lost Pugh.
He's done.
I'm sure this is going to be a hot boy from a neck pour. Wow.
Oh, I bet. What's the proof on that?
We are looking at
120?
129.8.
Wow, higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Anyway, so I will let that sit for a couple seconds here, and then I'm going to get into it. But a lot of you guys, hopefully, have already gotten your Customs Volume 5 in the mail. I've already seen some posts. We're recording this on a Thursday, and I've already started seeing posts of people getting them, which is really exciting.
Absolutely. Love seeing those.
I love seeing that. I can't even express how cool that is, whether it's a monthly box or Customs. When people start to get those and they start posting it, about it, there's just this level of excitement knowing that they're about to enjoy it and about to experience what we put a lot of time and effort and hard work into.
A lot of hands involved to get these to everyone. It's always rewarding. It's even better when they enjoy, like they post a photo of them smoking it and they talk about how much they like it, or they post their tasting notes on it. Those are always just really exciting for me to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. We always encourage people in the Facebook group, like, tell us what you're tasting in it, because these tasting notes are like guided notes. It's what we taste. And like I said, this cigar is evolving and changing. It's a cigar that was blended to evolve over time. So these tasting notes are going to be changing. There's a sweetness aspect. There's a strength aspect. You fill in the blanks of what you're getting from it. But the story of this cigar and customs, and those of you that know a lot about customs, know that we're about stories and about experiences in an old way of making and sharing cigars. And this one was decided upon at the end of last year. It was like November or December of last year. We were working on the Sereno Taino number 44 Cigar Club exclusive cigar. And Carson had sent me a bunch of samples of them up. And in that box was this 5-pack of cigars that had this like long tail on it. Like it looked like a grenade or like a candle wick, and an unfinished foot. And the cello was like dark yellow.
Are we talking like Jeremy Jack level of dark?
Yes,
oh,
exactly.
Goodness.
And I think I still have one. I'm trying to dig it up and find it because I think you would really enjoy that, Pugh.
Is that when you said an unfinished foot, is that a like a shaggy foot where the wrapper doesn't come all the way down to the
later.
binder?
Yep.
Interesting. I've never heard it called unfinished foot. I like that.
Or I think shaggy is the technical term for it.
The description of it.
Unfinished foot is what we call it here.
Ran out of wrapper leaf, so we only went 7/8 of the way.
It's still a Toro. So I see this 5-pack in there, and I'm like, oh, okay. And sometimes Carson will send me samples. He'll throw in like random stuff in there. That's always like, I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I'll smoke it. I'll be like, dude, that was awesome. He's like, oh yeah, that was from like whatever. Like we didn't end up doing it. So this one is in just a plastic wrap, like clear cellophane. And on the cellophane, it just says across the 5-pack in Sharpie, like Prince of Dubai. And I was like, okay, interesting. So I open it up. I smoke it. Like the next day at the office, it was freezing cold outside. I smoked the cigar and I was like, oh my God, what is this? It was still strong, which was the amazing part. It was so flavorful and so vintage tasting, but like just loaded with flavor. It never stopped. Every third was a new transition. And obviously I'm looking at it going, this thing's at least 5 years old, at least, if not older. And I just couldn't get over it. So I'm smoking it. I text him. I'm like, what the hell is this cigar? And I'm like, it said Prince of Dubai on the thing. And of course he like casually writes back. And this isn't really fully, this full story is not going in all of our material because whatever, but the people on the podcast get to hear this. He's like, oh yeah, we make a cigar for a prince that lives in Dubai. And this is his custom blend.
That's wild. I mean,
and I was like, that is literally Cigar Club Customs. That is why we are doing what we are doing. If you've heard any podcast or any video on customs, you hear me say, back in the old days, businessmen, Middle East royalty would go to Cuba, make custom blends, and send them back for themselves, for friends, for family, for clients. This guy is still doing that.
And Omar
Gonzalez, the ultimate flex, Omar Gonzalez, who owns that factory, comes from La Corona, Cuba, the like very famous Cuban factory, where they made Cuban custom rolls for Saudi princes and Arabian princes
royalty
and all these
presidents.
people.
I mean,
royalty.
I imagine the list just goes on and on.
So we got a guy who like blends custom blends in Cuba, starts his factory in Nicaragua, still does it. Somehow I get my hand on an unbanded 5-pack. I'm like, I'm in love with this cigar. And I've smoked plenty from like Carson where I get stuff and I smoke. I'm like, this was good, whatever. I don't freak out like I freaked out over this one. He tells me it's a custom blend for a prince in Dubai. And I'm like, game over. I'm like, we have to do this for customs. Like, we're not going to use this exact blend, but I want it to be based off of this blend. And I'm like, also, if you do this exact blend, we'll kill everybody that smokes it, because this is, I found out 8 years off. This is 8 years off the table, and it's still strong as hell to me. So we're definitely not doing this exact blend, but can we do like a toned down version of it? And we both started laughing. He got samples moving. I got him up here, and we had some that was basically varying differences of Ligero and Medio Tiempo throughout, but I wanted to use the same wrapper. And a similar mix of like the Esteli and Jalapa tobaccos. So we changed how much Ligero and Medio were using it, changed the size, but I wanted it to kind of remind me of that experience where I felt like a customs member, because I got to experience a real customs.
Yeah.
Just like every single, every other month here at Cigar Club, you all get to experience a real customs. I got to experience one that I didn't have anything to do with. And it kind of re-sparked my excitement for what we're doing here with customs.
Yeah, I mean, that story, when I first heard it, I just was in awe of not only how cool it is, the fact that things like that still happen, like going back to talking to the old days of cigars where, people would make cigars just for friends and family and not even for any other reason, not to anticipation of selling it. So it reminded me of that. And then as I heard more and more of that story, I was really just excited to see what that tweaked blend would come out to be. And jumping in right now, this is going really well with McKenna. I will be hard-pressed if any of the other two will be equally as good. It's rounding off the cigar. It's adding a little bit more sweetness to it to balance out some of those heavier undertones of earth and leather, and a little bit of spice. I mean, there's really not much spice to it, which is surprising. Normally, when I think of more full-bodied cigars that tend to need that age, to me, the age is needed to bring down some of those spice levels. So I was anticipating more spice, which is why I pulled this bottle. And I'm happy to say that there's that spice, for me at least, isn't really dominant or overpowering. So it kind of does this nice little interplay of sweetness from the bourbon to round out more of those heavier undertones of earth and leather on the cigar. So I should have saved this one for last, but I think the last one's going to be really good too, though, and I'm excited for that one. So stay tuned.
I fully stay here, people. I fully agree with you regarding the spice level. I don't really get any spice from this cigar in the several times I smoked it, even in the sampling process. I always got strength, though. At different points in the cigar, I'll feel it more in my throat, in my chest. You feel that like strength through the hearty like stickiness of the tobaccos that are in
Yeah,
this.
I was going to say, strength is something that's very difficult for me to actually interpret. Obviously, if I have a mild cigar next to a full-bodied cigar, sure, I'll be able to tell the strength difference. But that's probably my biggest weakness in picking up a cigar, is just being able to determine the strength level. Whether that's just because I'm used to smoking cigars, so now I can't determine, a medium to a full-bodied cigar. Mild's pretty easy, but the strength, it's there, certainly. It doesn't affect me as much as it may affect other people, so that's difficult for me to determine. All that to say, if you've smoking customs, grab yourself a bourbon, especially if it's going to be a lower rye content bourbon. I think you're going to be off to a great start. A wheated bourbon will certainly go really well. Elijah Craig will go really, really well. I'd be curious if something like Four Roses would go well.
Ooh.
Just because Four Roses to me tends to be, at least a lot of their releases tend to be a little bit more fruit forward as opposed to caramel or vanilla. So I don't know if that would go well, but those fruit notes may actually balance similarly like the caramel and vanilla is with this McKenna.
There's something else about this cigar that I was just looking at, holding up to this window over here. This wrapper is just stunning.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's all one exact shade. It is like just milk chocolate. There's no like bumps or tooth. It's just like perfect. And the cap is stunning, the Bellicoso. And anyway, it's a beautiful cigar. It's heavy to the hand, but it draws perfectly well. It's well packed. And these tobaccos in here are literally some of the best we could get at La Corona. It's one of the most expensive customs that we've made just because of the types of tobacco we had to use for it to get that profile that we wanted from the initial sample. And we didn't hold back. And I hope you guys can taste that and taste the difference, it is a special cigar.
Now, how do you like to cut your Bellicosos, your 109s, or your Torpedoes?
So I go either way. If it's a Torpedo, I don't go V. I'll always go straight. If it's a Bellicoso or 109, I like the V.
Yeah. So on this
And
one,
people always give crap about using a V cut. I don't get why.
I've got my Colbury V cut.
Yes. Oh,
Which,
that thing's a monster.
That's a beast. It gives a deeper cut, so you can certainly choke up on it a little bit to not get such a deep cut for this one, though. I went deep. I tend to. I agree. If it's a 109 or a Bellicosa, I always go V. It's still my favorite cut. If I'm like you. If I have a Torpedo, I'll go for a slanted. I'll get out my Cigar guillotine, not my perfect flat cut, and I'll go for a slanted cut. It tends to favor the wrapper a little bit more on those Torpedoes than a V cut, and which is why I like it. And I like the draw too. I like being able to have a little bit of that wrapper on the outside as I go to draw it. You get to taste it a little bit more. And on this one, I think that was a perfect call. This wrapper is phenomenal.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I love and it's interesting because the name that we chose for this cigar has nothing to do with the fact that it's like Prince of Dubai and La Corona and all these things, but it does have to do with people who are like royalty to us. We're just going to say it. We love our friends at Durham Brand Studio here in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area. Austin, who owns and runs Durham, is the mastermind behind the new CigarClub brand, the customs branding, and a lot of other things that are coming soon. And to me, this was a cigar that would honor that and thank him for the work that he did there. And when I gave this to him for the first time, we had just got done doing a barrel pick with his dad at New Riff.
Oh, I love New Riff.
And I just got the bottle actually in yesterday from the pick. And we did the pick. We went back to his house, and I had just gotten these in. Like that day, I got one 5-pack in from the warehouse. They're like, here's the 5-pack to take the photos, all that stuff, make sure everything's good to go. So I brought the 5-pack, opened it up, handed his dad, his brother-in-law, him, and there's one other guy there, and then me, hand them all a Durham. And he was like, what the heck is this? And I was like,
didn't know?
Read it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
he didn't know.
What an experience.
And I was like, read it. And he gets every customs, right? So he gets a shipment every month. And he's like, are you kidding me? And his dad is like, that's your name on there, son. And that's the studio. And they all lit it up. We smoked it. Granted, whether they liked it or not, there's probably some bias there.
Oh,
but
for
they
sure.
all loved it. And we sat there with just a table full of whiskey. It just got off a barrel pick, smoked this thing, and it was full of flavor. And we were just laughing, having a great time. And it's one of those cigars where you can smoke it after anything. Like, it could be your 10th cigar of the day, your first. It could also be after a big hearty meal. Like, this to me is like the Thanksgiving custom smoke.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
And anyway, they really enjoyed it. And so just a big shout out to Durham. This cigar was kind of put together to honor them, thank them for everything they've done for us. And hopefully it lives up to its name, and it's a bold, beautiful cigar. So there you go. That's how we got to the name Durham.
And if I recall correctly, that was a rough morning the next day for you.
If you recall correctly, it was Pugh.
Oh, but jumping back in to go back to the strength of it to save you from any embarrassment on that one.
Any future embarrassments?
I'm getting into probably the end of the first third and starting to pick up some of that strength.
Yep.
You know, like I said, difficult for me to notice, but right there, kind of sat on my tongue for a little bit longer than anything else did. I know you mentioned the back of your throat, kind of the stickiness of the tobacco. And thinking about that helped me pick up that strength. But I'm going to move into my next pairing and kind of give my ideas on that one.
What do we got, Pugh?
So we've got, this was actually a Bailey purchase. So she's not home right now, so she doesn't know I'm pulling this one out. But I bought this for her for a Christmas present one year. But it's one of her favorite ryes, Whistle Pig Straight Rye. This is probably, I picked this up probably 2017. Normally ryes I tend to not go towards for pairing with a cigar. But
I
knowing the
think that's
description
gonna
of
do
it,
well with this.
the strength into it, I anticipated some spice to it, which despite not being there, I anticipated. So I was like, okay, let's let's really just drive home that spice. So I picked up a rye, one of my favorite ryes. You can find it anywhere. It's not allocated or difficult to find, at least as far as I'm aware of. But we're gonna see where this goes and how it compares to the bourbon. And
Wonderful.
also my favorite glass, my Willet glass.
Oh,
I mean, this thing.
that is a beautiful,
That hold right there, that
beautiful
little
Willet glass.
edge to it, fits perfectly in your hand, and one of my favorites.
Sensual. Keep us posted, Pugh. While you're sipping that, get all the notes out, get your puffs in, get your sips in. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, maybe on the last Customs podcast we did. But 2022 is about to be really exciting for Customs. I was also yesterday in a big creative brainstorm meeting with the team here about some design tweaks we're going to be doing, new things we're going to be bringing to the table for Customs 2022. And Mr. Pugh is working on a blend, which will be the third release of 2022, coming in June. So give us your thoughts on this first, on the new pairing, and then I want to dive into you jumping into this whole process and talk through all that.
So, Whistle Pig, delicious. If you've never had it before, if you don't like rye, or maybe you've never tried rye whiskey because you're really intimidated by the spice level that normally gets associated with rye. To me, this is it's not an overpowering rye. Like, to me, an overpowering rye is, or a heavy rye is like E.H. Taylor, the E.H. Taylor rye. To me, that one is very spice forward. This one, at least my bottle right now, is much more subdued, a lot more floral notes to it. And immediately going from taking a sip to smoking the cigar, okay, this might be this might be better than
it's
McKenna.
Better than the McKenna?
I think it is, and I am really shocked to hear about it. It brought out all of these floral notes that were hiding in the background of Durham. I mean, wow. Like citrus, there's some...
Okay.
I don't know the floral notes, the flower notes to describe, but
hibiscus.
It lightens it up. It makes it more approachable, especially if you're really concerned about the strength of the cigar or it being a full-bodied... Like, if you don't smoke full-bodied cigars, grab yourself Whistle Pig Rye and smoke it, and it turns it into almost like a medium, maybe medium plus. Gives me more of a Habano feel to it with those citrus notes that are coming out of it. Wow, did not expect that.
All right, so Whistle Pig is taking the lead for the Durham Customs pairing. I love the smoke output and the smoke off the foot that I just keep seeing.
Yeah,
coming off this cigar.
Gorgeous. A little wind to it, so I had to touch it up once just because of the wind and probably because of how hot it is out here. But wow, yeah, I did not expect that at all. I'm curious to see.
Oh, this is so awesome.
Curious to see. So, like, my go-to rye, as I've talked about before, is Willett Family Estate, which tends to be more minty, which is probably my favorite tasting notes in rye and why I gravitate towards rye. And I don't think that would go well. Like, I think this Whistle Pig was the perfect pickup.
Yeah. The minty, I was hesitant when you grabbed that because I don't think I've had that rye. But I was like, minty with the strength and the depth. I don't know what that's going to do. But I could see the rice spice being a great complement to the inherent sweetness of that cigar, which I feel like you don't get a lot of the sweetness if you're only smoking the cigar because of the strength. But as soon as you grab something that's not sweet and strong, you then are like, oh yeah, wow, here's all the sweetness.
Yeah, whereas like McKenna, going from the cigar to the drink and back and forth, it was playing with each other, balancing each other out. I was getting more of those deeper earth undertones with the cigar that was being balanced out by the vanilla and caramel. Whereas now going from the rye to the cigar and back and forth, it's changed the entire makeup of the cigar. So instead of it being earthy and undertones, it's now floral and citrusy. And I'm picking that back up going to the rye. It's kind of bringing more of those citrus notes out in the rye as well after smoking. Really cool. This is why I love pairing, because it's an endless playground. It's really cool to me to experiment and play with how it can change each other or how it can complement each other, or even, completely go opposite directions and not go well with it. It's just, to me, one of the more fun things that I can do with spirits and cigars.
No, absolutely. And one of the fun things you can do with cigars is make your own.
That is true. That is very true. That is very true. And I'm really, really excited to dip my toes into the water and experience kind of your first, like, was for you with Ocho and the journey of coming out with your own customs. I'm really excited. I don't want to give too much away because the story to me is really special. To me, it's the story. It started with a story, and then it's going to kind of blend off of that story, which once again is a kind of homage to what customs is all about. It's going to be a cigar that I'm probably going to be a daily smoker. We've got it in the works, getting blended together, and really excited to tweak it and kind of turn it into my vision. To give a little bit away, it's going to be something that I think will be something you can smoke in the morning, afternoon, at night to round out a meal. It's going to be probably on the mild plus, medium side of things. I'm looking for something really rounded, clean palate, and to hit all my favorite notes. Yours is cinnamon. Mine's a little bit different. I don't want to give away the farm yet, but I think it's going to be truly special. I'm really excited to really flesh out the story and kind of tell the start to finish of what the blend will be for me and how special it will be to me.
I love this part of where customs is evolving to, because this is, for me, and this was 2 years ago. I am in no way acting like I know what I'm doing or like a seasoned pro. So please, nobody listen to this think that, or you, Pugh. But this is, for me, how it started. Was, hey, yes, we can make you a cigar. What do you want it to taste like? Just give me some notes. Give me some countries you want to use in the blend. Give me some cigars you smoke that are like that. Give me how you want somebody to feel when they're smoking it. And then let's put something together. Let's get it in your hands. And then tell me, like, what is there too much of? What is there not enough of? And then, boom, there's your first cigar. And then before you know it, your second cigar is like, hey, I want this exact tobacco with this priming from this farm. And I want less of this, more of that. And it gets, I think, more hands-on every time. And you're in like the really exciting beginning phase of like falling down that rabbit hole of constructing, blending, creating your own cigar.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I'm most excited for is just to see how much a slight percentage decrease here of a certain tobacco really impacts the overall experience of the cigar, the flavor of the cigar, the construction of a cigar. We've kind of experimented before with the Puritos podcast that we did before. But being able to actually have my hand in that and go, oh, wow, I can see too much Ligero makes this not burn correctly, or maybe burn too much. And that's going to be really exciting, just to be involved in that, a part of that, and seeing the evolution of the cigar from start to finish, and being able to get in front of everyone. And I hope everyone, actually, let me rephrase that. I know everyone's going to enjoy it.
Listen, if you are not a part of Cigar Club Customs, I implore you, go and sign up, cigarclub.com/customs. Get signed up for this thing. Get your year subscription, get your month-to-month subscription, whatever you want, whatever you need. Be a part of it so that you can catch all these releases. Next year is filled with epicness. Griff's doing a blend at the end of the year. Pugh's doing one in the middle of the year. We got one honoring the baby coming at the beginning of the year. There's just like really cool stories that are going to start happening. And we're making all of these cigars in 2022 with our really good friend, who's now family, Hostos Fernandez Quesada at Tabacalera La Isla. And that's something I want to take 20 seconds to talk about, because that doesn't just happen because it's easy. That doesn't just happen because, oh, we can just make all six there and be done with it. It happens because we want to do that, because he's one of the best people to make cigars with. And this past year, we will have eclipsed 6 factories.
Yeah. Which
is insane. Yeah, that we released a cigar every 60 days from a new factory from 3 different countries.
Eat your heart out. These major, massive manufacturers that come out with something, maybe once, twice a year. I mean, it's just a crazy amount of work, but also like such rewarding, right? Like, we've got to experience 6 different factories and really see, the difference what a factory can do, right? The access, or the tobacco they have access to,
Right.
their rollers, their vision, and working with those factories to kind of blend our visions of what we're looking to accomplish, and then ultimately having their guidance to produce that vision, and then the
Right.
final outcome.
Right. And with Hostos, he's always said yes, even when it's a small one-off thing, or I want samples to try some new tobacco, or it's always yes. And beyond that, he's always teaching, but he's not like, I am the sensei, do this, do that. Like, sitting at a table with him in DR is hilarious, because I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm like, hey, can you tell Elvis, who's like the roller there, who makes blends when you sit at the table with all the tobaccos, can you tell Elvis to, like, I want half leaf for that Viso, quarter leaf for this. Hostos could know it's going to be shit. And he'll be like, sure. Translates. I get it in my mouth. I'm like, yeah, that didn't work out. He's like, okay, let's try something else. I'm like, you knew this wasn't going to be good, though. He's like, it's not my cigar. And I'm like, okay, that's fun. Because having that kind of hands-on and being in the DR where we can have access to any tobacco we want, where Hostos can go get it, we can source it, we can walk across the street from his factory, go pick a wrapper leaf. Like, you have access to all these tobaccos. It makes the blending process really exciting. And it's why we're, I think, able to focus on one factory this coming year and still present 6 wildly different flavors, 6 wildly different cigars that all come from Hostos, but at the end of the day are going to take you on a totally different experience and share with you 6 different really cool stories about cigars, about life, and about our time, or short time, in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Hostos
so,
really
looking forward to it.
Seems like from the interviews and discussions that we've had with Hostos and you've had with Hostos, he really seems to embrace my mantra of always be learning, right? And
yes,
he's always looking to, he's humble and says, and knows that, hey, listen, I'm along for this journey too, right? And is always looking to perfect his craft, to get better, not be this type of person that says it's my way or the highway. And I think that's really admirable and something that I look forward to working with him for my customs.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to get on that process, get going. I send him an email today with a bunch of blends to start prepping. Obviously yours being one of those, and I can't wait to see what we start cracking with. So make sure you guys stay tuned on all of this and be a part of Customs. It's a lot of fun to share these stories. It's only every other month, so get on it. Christmas is coming. Buy yourself a gift. Get you a Customs subscription. And I promise you, you will not be let down. We are cigar geeks making cigars for ourselves.
Hashtag treat yourself for the holiday.
Treat yourself. And speaking of treat yourself, what are we treating yourself with on bottle number 3, Mr. Pugh?
Yeah, reach for it. I don't know if you saw that. I'm excited for this one. I am going for something that I haven't brought out before, and I don't think I have done this type of whiskey before.
Stag.
No, it's not going to be Stag. It is...
If it's Scotch.
It is Scotch. We are going with a Glenmorangie port finish, 14 years. So,
this could be amazing.
I know, right? So I grabbed this one. This comes in at 92 proof. It is aged 14 years, originally in American oak bourbon casks, and then it is finished in ruby port casks. So I grabbed this one solely off the cold draw, which I picked up these wonderful dark fruit notes. And I immediately went to port, and I knew I had a port finish Scotch. And I wanted to appease our Scotch listeners that may only drink Scotch. So I think I'm really excited about this one. I love Glenmorangie. It is a Highland Scotch. It is a Highland Scotch. Nailed it.
A Highland Scotch. A Highland Scotch.
Which to me dials down the peatiness.
Get your skirts on.
Get your kilts on. Come on now.
Get your kilts
on. A little respect. A lot of people are turned off.
This barrel proof is doing something to me. Here we go.
Uh-oh. And I thought I was going to be the one in trouble. You can see that if you're watching this on YouTube, the sun has slowly crept up from the bottom of the screen to the top of my face. So the sweating has started. Maybe the sun and maybe the whiskey here. But a lot of people are turned away by Scotch because they just associate it with heavy peat and they don't like those peat flavors. I know I sent you and Griff some Scotch a few weeks ago.
That was amazing.
Both of you don't
And it
like
didn't taste like
super
Scotch.
exactly, and so that's where I wanted to go with the direction of this one. A nice Scotch that not only do I think will pair well, but I think is approachable for non-Scotch drinkers as well as Scotch drinkers. So before even getting into this, I'm hoping though that port cask finish will add more of that dark fruit notes to it, those rich fruit notes that I'm hoping will pull out more of that, which I haven't got so far. Like it's been citrusy and floral. It hasn't been any of that darker, heavier fruit that I got initially on the cold draw. But beautiful Copita here from Glencairn.
What the heck is a Copita, Pugh?
It is a Scotch glass. It's a tulip glass.
Looks like a little wine glass.
It's pretty much the only thing that I drink Scotch out of. I think it just really emphasizes and holds those oils to the side of the glass better than a traditional Glencairn does. It's got a smaller opening to the nose to it, and drinks bourbon great out of it. But I don't drink Scotch at anything other than this Copita.
Do you ever have a bourbon, a whiskey, and anything where you finish your glass, but you can't help but still nose it?
So, yeah. I love going back to my glass after I finish it. So going back to the McKenna before I jump into this one, it's just pure oak. A little bit of like rich, spicy cedar to it. Dried vanilla. Oh, it's great. If you don't go back and nose, if you have a Glencairn or a special glass that you drink out of, it may not, I don't know if it'll work with a rocks glass, but if you're drinking out of a rocks glass, it certainly can. Especially if you drink it neat. I think addition to some rocks, it may dilute it down. Oh, yeah.
I mean, this Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof glass, leftover glass, is arguably just as good as the experience drinking it.
Harking back to the last week episode about the unicorn. I think that was last week's. The previous episode about unicorns. When I drank the Heaven Hill 27, I nosed that empty glass for probably a solid 30 minutes. The bartender kept like looking at me, like, "You done?" And I'm sitting here going, "Nope. I'm going to enjoy all it's worth." So let's get into this.
Not yet, my guy. All right, the big moment of truth here.
That's good. That's really good. Just the whiskey itself. I haven't even thought about pairing it with yet, but I love what a finished barrel can do. And kind of part of the reason why I got into Scotch is they're much more, while they're strict, they're more open to experimentation and it's still being Scotch. You know, there comes a point where a bourbon is no longer a bourbon by regulation because it's done, you know, outside of the standard that makes it a bourbon. So you have a little less playground. You know, sure, it's still just a whiskey, but it doesn't get labeled as a bourbon anymore. Scotch tends to be a little bit more experimental in what they can finish with and what they can do. You know, you'll see some crazy Scotches that are finished in multiple different barrels. I have a what is it? A Macallan that's their yellow box, and it's finished in like 8 different things. So, little tangent on Scotch there, but let's see how it actually pairs with the cigar, which is the point of all of this.
This is one of the cool things, though, Pugh, about your collection and what you enjoy with pairings is you're less biased than most, and you'll explore the world of whiskey beyond just bourbon, and we appreciate that about you. Finished Scotch.
It's fun.
American whiskey, he's here for it, folks.
I'm here for it, and you know what? I've slowly got into rum. I'm a huge gin fan, although I don't think gin...
I do love rum.
I haven't found a really
gin
good...
and a cigar, though.
Yeah, I haven't found a good gin pairing. Maybe, if I had to guess, maybe like a Habano and some super... I don't even know. I don't know if you could do it.
I have one for you.
Oh. Talk to me.
I want to do this blind for you, so maybe the 5th bottle I'll put this in it, but it is a barrel-aged gin from Few Spirits.
Oh, okay.
That I love.
I've got a few barrel-aged gins, which I don't know what to ever do with. Like, I have them, I'll try to make cocktails out of them. I end up just drinking them on the rocks.
Yeah, they're kind of... Yes, I drink mine neat, or on the rocks. I've tried to do like a gin old-fashioned. Nah, didn't really work. A gin and tonic, weird. Not
even
good.
More weird is a martini.
Yeah, that would be disgusting, actually. So I don't know what exactly you do with it, but that's my favorite way to enjoy just gin. But anyway, all right. What is this giving you to close this out? We need the details on the Scotch and the brand new CigarClub Customs Volume 5 Durham
Going back to
pairing.
our conversation prior to starting this, I really need a soft flame lighter because I just lit my fingers on fire while trying to touch this
Oh
bad boy up.
god.
Because
Last week he gets almost eaten by a hornet, and this week he lights his hand on fire. Somebody send this man a lighter.
yeah, save my fingers. All right, going cigar to the scotch here. It's not bad,
Okay.
but it's
okay.
not.
Okay. It's not the rye though.
It's not as good as the other two. Now, do I think a scotch could pair well with this? Absolutely. If I was going back to a scotch, I am going to a Lagavulin or a Lafroig. I think this would go really well with peated scotch. I think my intentions behind this one were to pull out more of those darker fruit notes with the port finish, and it's not strong enough to live up to the strength and the full bodiness of the cigar, which is why I would lean on, I think a Lagavulin 16 would knock this out of the park. Lagavulin, if you haven't drank it, it is a peated scotch. It's an Islay. I love Lagavulin because it's super salty, and it's peated, but it's not overpowered on peat, and it really emphasizes the terroir of where it's made. It's made right there on the coast of Islay, so you get the sea salt that smashes up against their aging warehouse where they malt, and you really can pick that up, and I think that would go really well with this. So if I had to revisit this, I would go for a more peated scotch.
You heard it here first, folks. So,
Just give me a drum roll. Is that what I heard? That was fantastic, and if that wasn't intentional, that was perfect timing. I just picture someone in the corner that was just sitting there ready to hit the...
Pugh, what is your number one pairing for this cigar? Go.
Wait, I'm waiting for the drum roll again.
Now it's not working.
Oh,
Hold on.
come on
Hold
now.
on. I just found this new plug-in on this thing that I didn't know existed. Ramsey's been hiding it from us for a reason.
Boom. Go with the Whistle Pig.
Whistle Pig, straight rye.
If you've got Whistle Pig at home, grab it. If you have a less... Oh, man, this is
Whistle
great.
Pig.
If you have a rye that's a little more subdued in the mintiness, go for that. Something that's going to be a little spice, maybe some citrus to it. So if you don't have Whistle Pig, kind of shoot for that mark. If you've got Whistle Pig, perfect pairing. If you don't, or if you don't like rye, grab yourself a McKenna or a wheated bourbon, and it will go phenomenally.
Wow. You heard it here first, folks. Your official pairing master, David Pugh, has given you the road map, the rule book, and the order for your Durham Customs Volume 5 pairing. Pugh, I love that. I have the McKenna. I will try it. And I don't have either of the other two, but I can get Whistle Pig Rye. So I will try it. And I'm actually going to try it tonight as soon as I go home.
I want to know what
I'm
you
really
think of that.
excited about this.
I will throw in a few more. If you aren't a whiskey person, maybe you like wine, I think a full-bodied red would go really well with this. I think a Cabernet Sauvignon would go really well. I think a Burgundy would go really well. And I think a Bordeaux would go really well. I don't think an Italian Nebbiolo would go really well because it's a little bit more tanny, so it's going to be drier. And I think I would want something that kind of refreshes my palate, not necessarily dries it out with this cigar to kind of combat the strength to it. So, if you don't drink spirits, there's your wine pairing.
Beautiful. Hey, look, these, we said at the top of the show, but doing these customs episodes are fun because, one, if we don't like things, we can just say it. It's our cigar. We're doing the pairings. It's way more fun this way. Nobody can get mad at us. Again, if you guys aren't a part of customs, go sign up. I think you'd really enjoy it. And we're every other month, we're dropping these. We're doing these episodes where we talk through everything about it. At the end of this year, we've got one final special release coming out in December. So if you join now, you can be a part of that one. And then we're also going to be releasing a Cigar Club Custom sampler from 2021. We only have like 50 of them, and it's one of each cigar that we released. I mean, we literally have like 50 Ocho in singles left. That's it. They're gone after that. So if you missed out on that one, if you missed out on Mikasa or Patriarch or any of these, this is your chance to go back and try them. Those will be available in November. We've got the cigar leather case. We're working on a candle that's getting released soon. There's so many really cool products coming out, and 3 brand new exclusives.
I mean, talk about
Aganorsa,
end loading the year.
Fratello, Sereno, which isn't even exclusive. It's a full-on release. There's a lot of cool stuff coming. Some other stuff with Principal. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you guys. Keep tabs on your email, keep tabs on the podcast, on FA4, on Instagram. We'll be letting you know as all of these release. Everything, obviously, like most of the things we do, are limited quantities. We try and keep them on a little longer, but get them if it's a brand that we're doing exclusive with that you love. Get it while you can. And of course, we'll see you, or a lot of you, in Pittsburgh on November 7th at the Pinkies Out release. If you need more info on that, you can find it in the show notes. We're going to put them in there for the Eventbrite tickets to sign up to be a part of that event. It's free. Come hang out. We're deep frying turkeys and smoking Pinkies Out.
Man,
and
you're just
drinking a lot of bourbon.
Dave over here is just trying to make me super jealous that I won't be able to attend. I will be at a wedding sharing cigars with the groom, so I will be enjoying myself, but also know that I wish I could be there to celebrate with all of y'all.
Pugh, you got to figure out which customs he would like the most, so you can bring a couple 5-packs to the wedding.
There'll be a bag of cigars for him that we'll smoke through.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you, as always, for listening, for hanging out with us. We really do enjoy every time we get to sit down, put all the work aside, enjoy cigars, enjoy pairings, talk about this amazing industry that we get to be a part of. And get ready for Pugh's debut cigar. T-minus 6 months, 7 or 8 months.
To say I'm excited is an understatement, and I'm really looking forward to unveiling that, enjoying that with everyone, and then shooting a podcast around it as well. It's going to be a wonderful time.
Ooh, it's going to be awesome. All right, guys. Until next time, make sure you like this video if you're watching on YouTube. Drop a comment down below and download these episodes. Spotify, Apple Music, and Google Podcasts. I'm Dave Ember. He is David Pugh. This is the Cigar Club Podcast. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Peace.